歡迎大家今日。
Welcome to today's press conference. This is the press conference on the 2026-27 budget initiatives under the FSTB. We're joined by Mr. Christopher Hui, Secretary for Financial Services and Treasury, Mr. Andrew Lai, Permanent Secretary for Financial Services and Treasury, as well as Ms. Selina Yan, Permanent Secretary for Financial Services and Treasury, Financial Services. Mr. Hui will brief us on the budget initiatives relating to the Financial Services and the Treasury Bureau. Friends of the media, Hong Kong citizens, good afternoon. Today I will introduce the major policy measures of our Bureau, that is the Financial Services and the Treasury Bureau, in the budget 2026-27 on financial development. Now, the global political and economic landscape is undergoing profound transformations. Despite the complex and ever-changing external environment, Hong Kong's financial market has performed strongly. Our financial system remains robust due to our advantages of one country, two systems. The stock market has shown encouraging momentum, with the total market capitalization rising to $50 trillion. IPO activities were vibrant, with continuous inflow of capital, which has driven the development of asset and wealth management sector. Hong Kong ranked the third globally and the first in the APAC in the Global Financial Centers Index. We are expected to become the world's largest cross-boundary wealth management center in 1 or 2 years. We will continue to consolidate the existing strengths, tap into emerging sectors, strengthen market systems and risk control, as well as deepen financial cooperation in the Greater Bay Area. By doing so, we'll enhance our role as an international financial center on all fronts and contribute to the national goal of accelerating China's development as a financial powerhouse. To dovetail with the recommendations for formulating the 15th five-year plan, we have drawn up measures under the key themes, as you can see on the PowerPoint: promoting reform, expanding infrastructures, increasing capacity, and building connectivity. Now, on promoting reform, we are committed to enhancing efficiency and competitiveness through reform and optimization of market rules and regulatory frameworks. Regarding the securities market, since the implementation of severe weather trading arrangements by the Hong Kong Exchange in September 2024, the stock market has operated in inclement weather for 7 trading days. The trading maintained market liquidity while generating stamp duty revenue of about $2.5 billion, demonstrating the result and commitment of the reform. Now, to continue enhancing the securities market, the Hong Kong Exchange will consult the market in the first quarter on the revision of listing requirements for enterprises with weighted voting right structures, facilitate secondary listing of overseas issuers, enhancing the IPO process, and provide greater flexibility for biotech and specialist tech companies applying for listing. We'll also implement the enhanced structured product listing framework and put forward specific implementation proposals for the settlement cycle of T+1 for market consultation in the first half of this year. To take forward the board lot reforms in the securities market, we will work with the SFC in the industry. We'll also launch the uncertificated securities market regime. In the next stage, we will enhance regulatory regime for listed companies, provide specific guidelines for overseas companies seeking secondary listing in Hong Kong, and offer more overseas markets as recognized exchanges. Now, the next area of reform on top of the securities market is the bond market. The SFC and Hong Kong MA will implement a roadmap for the development of fixed income and currency markets to promote issuance and liquidity, as well as expand offshore renminbi business and develop the new generation of infrastructure. To support the development of digital assets and application of tokenization technology in bond issuance and transactions, the government will provide guidelines to clarify that registers of debenture holders can be kept in the form of distributed ledger. We'll also explore adopting electronic signing of bond issuance documents and digitalization of bearer bonds. On enhancing the regulatory regime, the MPFA proposes to enhance the process of recovering default contribution from employers. Phase 1 proposal of MPF full portability will be implemented this year, and we will legislate in the first half of next year to extend the coverage to employees. The Insurance Authority will enhance the risk-based capital regime for insurance companies by adjusting risk parameters for general insurance business and providing capital relief for infrastructure investments. So these relate to the reform of the securities market, development of bond market, and optimizing the regulatory regimes. They come under the first theme, and that is to promote reform. The second theme is to expand infrastructures. We'll actively expand financial infrastructures to lay a long-term development foundation. The Hong Kong MA's CMU OmniClear Holdings Limited and the Hong Kong Exchange have commenced a study on the establishment of a one-stop multi-asset class post-trade securities infrastructure to cover mainland and Hong Kong equity to facilitate collateral connectivity. CMU will establish linkages with central securities depositories of various regions, such as 6 of Switzerland, and launch equity post-trade services for the first time. CMU will also establish a digital asset platform this year to support the issuance and settlement of digital bonds. The Hong Kong Exchange's integrated fund platform will expand its services this year, covering fund sales procedures such as payment and settlement to enhance market efficiency and lower transaction costs. So these relate to expanding infrastructures, including the CMU initiatives as well as the integrated fund platform of the Hong Kong Exchange. The next theme is to increase capacity. We will increase market capacity and attractiveness through tax and product measures. On advancing internationalization of renminbi, earlier this month, we doubled the size of renminbi business facility to 200 billion yuan. We will promote more convenient foreign exchange quotations and transactions between renminbi and other regional currencies. The government will issue renminbi bonds on a regular basis and improve the yield curve, form the offshore renminbi yield curve, and attract high-quality issuers and also issuers in the emerging markets to come to Hong Kong for renminbi bond issuance. The government issued the third batch of tokenized bonds with an issue size of $10 billion, with the option to settle via tokenized central bank money. Hong Kong MA will also encourage more digital bond issuance through the Digital Bond Grant Scheme. Asset and wealth management. We will enhance our preferential tax regime for funds and family offices. We will expand the scope of fund to cover specific funds of one, as well as classifying digital assets, precious metals, specified commodities, etc., as qualifying investments eligible for tax concessions. We will introduce an amendment bill in the first half of this year with a view to effecting the implementation from the year of assessment 2025-26, subject to LegCo's approval. To promote the development of the REIT market, we will introduce a statutory mechanism to facilitate privatization or restructuring of REITs. We will also provide a stamp duty waiver for the transfer of non-residential properties into REITs seeking to list. Now, to boost our appeal as a platform for bringing in and going global, we will announce measures in relation to additional tax incentives and pre-approval mechanism for corporate treasury centers in the middle of this year. We will step up publicity on the redomiciliation regime. So far, 22 cases have been approved, and about 20 cases are being considered. To further attract enterprises to set a presence in Hong Kong, we have formulated a preliminary framework. Policy tools include tax incentives. The Financial Secretary will also chair an advisory committee on tax policy to draw up tax policies that can reinforce economic development. On building the international gold trading market, apart from the measures already announced, we will explore offering tax incentives to eligible institutions conducting gold trading and settlement in Hong Kong. We will help the industry develop a training framework as well. We will support the exploration with the mainland and international multilateral financial institutions of the establishment of a Hong Kong-based green technology products accelerator to provide incubation, acceleration, and empowerment services for green technology projects in the Belt and Road regions. We'll also explore facilitating financial institutions to obtain public utility usage data of enterprises with their consent to enhance the efficiency of green financing and risk assessment. So much for increasing capacity. The last theme is building connectivity. Now, on building connectivity and international cooperation, we are proactively facilitating and supporting the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank in establishing an office in Hong Kong. We'll hold for the first time the APEC Finance Ministers meeting this year. We'll continue to hold various financial mega events, including Wealth for Good in Hong Kong Summit and the Hong Kong FinTech Week and Start Me Up Hong Kong Festival 2026. The Asia Financial Forum will celebrate its 20th anniversary next year and will strengthen the element of finance empowering businesses at the forum, and that's Finance Plus. We have signed comprehensive avoidance of double taxation agreements or CDTA agreements with 55 tax jurisdictions and will continue to expand the network. To sum up, through these measures, under the 4 themes of promoting reform, expanding infrastructures, increasing capacity, and building connectivity, we will actively dovetail with the recommendations for formulating the 15th five-year plan of our country, integrate into and serve the country's overall development plan, and contribute to the national goal of accelerating China's development as a financial powerhouse. We'll consolidate our status as an international financial center to bring impetus to the economic development in Hong Kong and our country.
The floor is now open for questions. Please raise your hand when you're called upon. You're welcome to ask questions through the mic given to you. Please identify your media outlet you represent. Thank you. The one in green jacket. Thank you. I'm from TMHK. I'd like to ask about public finance. Regarding green bonds and infrastructure bonds, the borrowing ceiling is increased to $900 billion. Why do you think the administration has the capability to increase the ceiling? Is there any trigger? Under what circumstances will the rating be affected? Regarding the way for going listed for IPO, a lot of companies are waiting on the list. The industry expressed concerns over quality, so how can the administration ensure quality? What measures will be implemented? What is your assessment of the IPO market this year? Will it reach another peak? For the stock market this year, how will it impact on the operating account of the government? What is its impact on the local equity market? Thank you. Regarding bond issuances, we have been adopting a clear method, and our approach has been recognized by rating organizations. Each time when we increase the borrowing ceiling, we need to go through a mechanism. Each time we go to the Legislative Council for approval, the money obtained from bond issuances will not be transferred to the operating account. It is just for infrastructure. This is very clear, and it has been recognized. Regarding the level, as you mentioned, in the coming 5 years, in 2030 to 31, the ratio will be about 19.9%. Comparing with a lot of different advanced economies, this is a healthy level. It remains controllable. Regarding stamp duties, for this financial year, we have adjusted upwards the stamp duties to $99.5 billion. In 2026 to 27, the figure stands at about $101 billion. So we have seen an ongoing upward trend. Regarding companies going listed, of course, we want to see the stock market remaining buoyant. We also want the IPO market to stay buoyant. We are not just after quantity. We focus on quality as well. We have requirements when it comes to the sponsor. There have been communication documents issued by the SFC on the quality of information disclosed as well as the submission of documents. There are requirements and guidelines in relation to quantity. There are guidelines in this area. So we have communicated the requirements very clearly, and we believe this is conducive to enhancing quality and enhancing objectivity. Regarding going listed, in the future there will be legislative amendments. After going listed, a listed company needs to maintain a certain level of quality. They will also have to comply with some rules. We will work with regulators as well as the SFC to take forward legislative amendments. Hong Kong ex-SFC, they have been working on this front. They have given promises if the documents submitted are of high quality within 30 days, the listing application will be scrutinized and approved. This ensures the quality and efficiency of the application. The one in pink, thank you. I'm from Phoenix TV. Regarding the international gold market and the structure of the market, I have a question. There are views that we can roll out products that link to renminbi-denominated derivatives. Can our current infrastructure and the gold trading market support this? If yes, how can we take forward this initiative in phases? Thank you. Thank you. In the financial market chapter under the budget, much coverage has been devoted to promoting the internationalization of renminbi. This is exactly what you just now asked about. We are an international financial center, so what role do we play? There's a chapter under the budget. One way to promote the internationalization of renminbi is that we can provide even more renminbi-denominated products. We want stocks in both Hong Kong dollars as well as renminbi. We also want to broaden the scope of renminbi transactions and assets, say equity, gold, and so on. However, commodities and products are a little bit different. When we form an ecosystem, first of all, we need to work on storage. So for the development of financial products or commodities, we need to lay a foundation for their development. That's why in both the policy address and the budget delivered just yesterday, storage comes first when it comes to forming an ecosystem. In the coming 3 years, 2,000 tons, this is our goal. When it comes to products, Hong Kong X has gold futures, and they are thinking proactively to update such products. They are working on this. Going forward, as for over-the-counter transactions, say gold contracts, renminbi is definitely one of the products. We need to dovetail with the trend of internationalization of renminbi of our country. We enjoy competitive edge in this regard. Thank you.
Next, this reporter in grey. I'm from Ming Pao. Good afternoon. The first question is about bonds. This year, the government will issue bonds of a longer tenor. Now, in terms of the proportion of or health ratio of these bonds, do you have the breakdown for the short, medium, long-term tenors? Now, you're going to raise the ceiling of borrowing to support infrastructure development. Now, is there a cap as to how this condition can be maintained, or is there not a cap at all? And what about the use of exchange fund for infrastructure development? Which quarter will this take place? Now, about the use of exchange fund, Secretary, you mentioned that the financial markets are very sensitive, and if the exchange fund is casually used, it will hamper the confidence in the linked exchange rate system. Can you explain why the government has made this decision? Has any assessment been made in terms of the financial markets impact as well as the international ratings? Now, I think I made this statement when I answered the electoral's question back in 2021. I cited the logic and the principles behind. I'd say that these still apply today. The point is we need to have sufficient capacity to ensure financial stability. And this is, in fact, the rationale behind my response back then. Now, the second point is whether we should make use of the funds during the pandemic to support our economy. My response was that we should avoid using the exchange fund to support, to pay for the operating expenses. And that is why on this occasion we have made it very clear that the money will only be used for the relevant investments in public works projects. Now, this is not the same as using the money for operating expenditure. So, in fact, I've adopted the same principles and rationale in replying to the electoral member's question back then. As for the timetable and other arrangements, I'll give the floor to the Permanent Secretary. The Financial Secretary proposes in the budget that $150 billion be set aside and be powered back to the Capital Works Reserve Fund to support public works project of the government. Now, this will be in full compliance with the Exchange Fund Ordinance. In other words, it is subject to the approval of the Advisory Committee on Exchange Fund as well as the approval of the CE in Council. So, as you know, the deliberations of the Chief Executive in Council will be confidential, so I'm afraid I cannot disclose any information as to the specific timetable. Safe to say that this will be complete in 2026-27. Next question, what about the impact on our international credit ratings? In fact, after the delivery of the budget, in the past few days, I have introduced the policy measures to many credit rating agencies, economists, and other representatives. As you can see, this is a well-balanced budget. And using the exchange fund will not be something of a regular arrangement. We are only using the capital for public works projects. On the whole, it's still well under control. And in fact, as far as the books are concerned, there is a general improvement comparing to the position in the past. So I suppose this budget is acceptable. Let's take an English question.
I was Kevin Lee. My first question is about bond issuance. The budget only gives a broad 5-year range, unlike past year, clear annual breakdown for infrastructure, green, and also silver bond. Can you provide a more clearer breakdown? And will expected U.S. rate cut this year we expect U.S. rate cut this year, so is mid-year a better issuance window? And will the bond, the maturity will be beyond the usual 3 to 5 years? Second question is on stablecoin licensing. We see that Eddie Yu indicated that a handful of licenses will be granted in the first batch, and with interest mainly from local and some mainland firms. But major global players like Circle and Tether are absent. So what is the expected number or scale of the initial license, and why are the leading international issuers are not participating? Are the rules too stringent for the global applicants? Thank you.
Okay. I'll just the second question about stablecoin, and I'll leave it to Andrew to address the question about the bond issuance. As highlighted by the Chief Executive earlier in one of his earlier speeches, the applications or the licenses will be given out soon, next month. So in terms of the other details, I'll defer to the announcements in terms of the number and also at the same time the actual details of the approved licenses. And for the bond issuance questions, Andrew will take it up.
Okay. As indicated in the new budget speech by the Financial Secretary, the government is going to issue about $160 billion bonds in the new financial year. Although we have yet to decide on the exact mix of this bond issuance program, but judging from our experience in the past, silver bond is a designated a component within it, and about $50 billion silver bonds were issued in the past 2 or 3 years. I think in the coming year, the mix will be along this way.
好，下一個提問，最遠嗰邊黑色衫嗰位。
Next question, this reporter in black, farthest away. Thank you. I'm from Hong Kong Economic Journal. Now, my question is, Secretary, is about trading and settlement of gold. It is said that tax incentives will be provided to eligible institutions. Can you tell us what institutions will be regarded as eligible? And what will be the form of tax incentives? Will it be in the form of profits tax concessions? The second question is about virtual assets. The People's Bank of China, as well as the relevant departments, have issued statements that as far as stable coins denominated in renminbi, as well as RWA, reports will have to be filed with the mainland authorities. So what about the policy direction in Hong Kong? Now, if we are to collaborate with mainland counterparts, will there be a relevant window for doing so? As for the exchange fund, the Financial Secretary yesterday already explained that this will not be a regular exercise. Now, what about the types of major infrastructure projects or the level of surplus in the exchange fund? Can you tell us the threshold for triggering this mechanism? Now, I will take the question, and then I will invite Permanent Secretary to take the other question on tax incentives for the trading of gold. Now, it doesn't just apply to gold trading. We have tax incentives for other kinds of activities as well. But as far as gold is concerned, we are going to go along these two directions. We're going to amend the Inland Revenue Ordinance so as to provide more tax concessions to single-family offices as well as funds, and we'll also widen the scope of eligible investments to include gold trading and precious metal trading, so as to attract family offices and funds to set a presence in Hong Kong. But we do not specifically require that such precious metal trading, including gold trading, must be related to Hong Kong. As for eligible institutions undertaking gold trading and settlements in Hong Kong, we are exploring the introduction of tax incentives. But this is just a study. We have yet to announce the details. The goal is not only to promote the development of the assets market, but also to focus on the development of the gold market in Hong Kong. So this is our policy consideration. To take the second question about the overall policy on digital assets. In the past few years, we published 2 policy statements. These statements are about the development of a reliable, credible, and stable digital assets market in Hong Kong, and our stance remains the same. We're drawing up a roadmap to allow eligible products and services to enjoy the relaxation measure. So we're going along this direction. I will let Andrew to take the third question.
Thank you. The main function of the exchange fund is to safeguard the stability of the Hong Kong dollars. That's why under the exchange fund ordinance, it is settled very clearly that if the Hong Kong government will have to transfer capital in the exchange fund, first of all, 2 principles will have to be confirmed. So this time round, the Financial Secretary made the decision to transfer $150 billion to transfer to the fund. We have already met the relevant requirements. Regarding whether there's any indicator, as the FS said, this is not a regular mechanism. Thank you. In the last row, the reporter in black.
Hello, this is RTHK English. So the first question is, the Financial Secretary said that the use of the Exchange Fund for Infrastructure Development isn't going to be a regular move. But can you explain more under what scenarios going forward might the government consider using the fund again? And the second question is, given that over the next 5 years bonds issued would exceed $900 billion, has the government considered whether that might affect Hong Kong's credit ratings? Thank you.
On the first question, I think we have already answered a few times in terms of the considerations and also the process and also the overall approach that we are taking with regard to this transfer of funds. So I'm not going to repeat the details here. That's number one. And number two, I would say in terms of the overall perception or the views of the credit agencies, among others, towards the overall financial or fiscal standing of the government. As I highlighted earlier, if you look at the overall feedback that we have been given throughout these meetings that we had with them since the announcement of the budget, people generally see us in a very prudent, at the same time, sustainable manner. At the same time, if you look at how we approach the finances, basically we are subject our bond issuance level to our legislative approval. At the same time, we are only channeling the bond issuance proceeds to the works projects. And all these, I would say, differentiate us from many other economies where they are facing lots of fiscal issues.
Maybe I would also like to clarify that the Financial Secretary is proposing that we are to raise the bond issuance ceiling to $900 billion. That is the ceiling. We are not going to exceed it. As to whether an exact amount to be issued in the coming 5 years, we will depend on our physical situation and also the progress of capital works projects each year. And in case we need to change this ceiling, we need to get the approval from the Legislative Council.
就住外匯基金，頭先大家問咗好幾個問題。
Just now, some reporters have already asked multiple questions about the exchange fund. Are there any other questions? Thank you. The reporter in the last row. In the lighter top. Thank you. I'm from Now TV. In this financial year, there is a projected surplus of $2.9 billion. Is this an international practice to include bond issuances? Have you taken a look at the market? Have you taken into account the market situation? Are you worried that the public may think that the government is borrowing money and take it as its revenue? Regarding the exchange fund, just now you mentioned there are two principles for the capital transfer. So what are the assessments? Why five years ago you didn't meet the requirements, whereas this year you have met the requirements? You said that this will not become the trend, but how can you make sure that this will not be the case? Thank you for your questions. Regarding using exchange fund, we tread very cautiously. Financial stability is indeed a factor. As I mentioned, we need to ensure that our public finances are stable. And under the exchange fund ordinance, it is set out clearly that we first of all need to meet this requirement before we can effect a capital transfer. And the exchange fund is only used to subsidize infrastructure projects. After we have infrastructure, then we can diversify our economy. We can also develop different industries. This will enhance the resilience of the local economy. So, however, you look at this issue, this is still a very prudent practice, any way you slice it. Regarding bond issuance arrangements, we have been using cash. Now, there are two accounts that are public, one accrual basis, the other one is cash basis. So we put the revenue from bond issuances into the cash flow account. This has been our practice. This is also the usual practice in different economies. Mr. Lai, I'd like to add something. the accounting practices of the government is always the cash basis. Anything we received is put into the cash account, and we have never changed this practice. From the perspective of accounting management or financial management, there is a high level of transparency. In the budget delivered by the Financial Secretary, we told you very clearly that we had issued 155 billion of bonds. And our surplus of $2.9 billion is the result after our bond issuances. We level with the public. We give you very transparent information. Thank you. The reporter in front, the one in darker clothes. Good afternoon. I'm from Wenhui Pao. I'd like to ask about the exchange fund as well. Just last month, on the 28th, it was announced that the exchange fund had made a lot of money or funds. Somebody asked whether there would be investments in the North Metropolis, and the answer was in the negative. Somebody also asked whether someone would, whether gold would be held. Last month, you said that that would go against the principle of the exchange fund. What about now? Is your decision in line with the purpose of using the exchange fund? There are short-term debentures, bonds. However, for projects of the Northern Metropolis, they are probably going to last as long as 10 years or even 20 years. My next question is that you are going to use the money from the exchange fund to fund works in the Northern Metropolis. What is your priority of the funds? Is it the last resort? Does it mean that for other fund sources they aren't doing very well? Does it also point to a lack of participation of the private sector? I have another question, not about the Northern Metropolis. The Hong Kong IC, as mentioned yesterday, would team up with different industries to invest in commercial and residential properties. But I'm none the wiser. What does it mean? Are they going to derive rents from commercial projects? They should have government parks if they are going to use the premises for their own purposes. But the Hong Kong IC said that they would have to use these premises for INT. Does it mean that it goes against the principle? Well, I will take your question first. Thank you. Yes, indeed. Regarding the exchange fund, it exists because we want to maintain financial stability. That's why assets within the exchange fund need to be of a certain level of liquidity. If we are going to transfer the surplus of the exchange fund, we aren't extracting all of the funds. There is still positive growth of the exchange fund. And what is the use of the funds? If it is a case of capital transfer, it is going to be used for our long-term investment. It doesn't affect the fact that the exchange fund needs to stay liquid.
Well, let me take the other two questions. I'd like to raise a point of information about the Northern Metropolis and the financial arrangement. As you know, Northern Metropolis is a mega project. It spans a very long period of time, and that is why we take multiple prongs in raising funds. First, we sell land in order to generate income to pay for this project. However, land revenue dropped in the past 2 or 3 years, and that's why we raised funds through issuing bonds. In this budget, we propose transferring $150 billion to the Capital Works Reserve Fund in order to support the Northern Metropolis and other infrastructure investments in the coming 2 years. At the same time, the government encourages private sector participation. Now, the government has adopted a new thinking in land grant issues such as Hong Shui Q. We adopt a large-scale disposal approach to encourage private sector's participation. There will be industrial as well as residential developments. As for the Sandy Ridge data centers, we are going to announce the tender results very soon. That is how we optimize the use of market resources to promote the development of Northern Metropolis. Now, as for the Hong Kong Investment Corporation, I think you're referring to paragraph 216 of the budget. Now, according to the Financial Secretary, the Hong Kong IC will work with the private counterparts on the long term so as to channel funds into high-quality commercial property projects. This is based on two considerations. First, in recent years, the commercial property market has been quite quiet. There is a lack of interest. So if we're able to introduce regional and international capital this to our economy, this can bring impetus to the market. For industries and companies which would like to set a presence in Hong Kong, if they invest in properties, this will also bring synergy to the development in general. Next, I'm from Hong Kong 01. Another reporter asked about the reason for transferring funds from the exchange fund to support the infrastructure development. Now, you mentioned that there are some quantitative standards that have been met. Can you tell us what they are? Now, in the future, if, again, these criteria are met and financial stability is ensured, will you consider transferring funds out of the exchange fund again? In fact, as I replied just now, the quantitative indicators or standards is just one of the factors of consideration. Now, we consider the matter itself, including whether we should go ahead with it and when we should do it, and to what extent. So we propose transferring $150 billion on this occasion, but in fact, last year we recorded an income of over $300 billion. So taking that into account, we do register positive growth in the income for the exchange fund. Now, whether this transfer will happen again, in fact, the Financial Secretary already explained in great detail. The overall objective is to support the development of the Northern Metropolis as well as the industries, and that we can have multiple sources of funds. And that is why in terms of capital, you notice we have different sources. Apart from raising funds through bonds, we also have different approaches. For example, we will encourage collaboration between developers and industrial companies so that they can participate in the Northern Metropolis project. And we also have policy tools such as preferential tax arrangements, such as halving the profits tax or 5% profits tax. All these are put in place with a view to encouraging participation in the Northern Metropolis by multiple parties. And only by doing so will we be able to ensure that there will be multi-party participation and that we can take forward development expeditiously. If there are no other questions, that's the end of the press conference. Thank you.